Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our program. We are so excited. I believe this is the third year in a row that we've done some sponsorship for the Berks Country Fest. However, it was an off-site venue and we could only take a limited number of people. So it was so nice when Dave and the whole shebang agreed to come here. So we're very happy to present the Storyteller to you. I'll let them explain it and talk about it. And welcome to everyone who is a guest this evening. If you would like some information about the Highlands, which is a retirement community, we're a life care community. We have residential living, personal care, skilled care, and a dementia unit. And soon we will open a brand new state-of-the-art dementia unit as well. So I will have information at the front desk, contact marketing. The marketing department is headed by Jody Gibble, and they are lovely people who can show you and about the Highlands and talk about the Highlands as well. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Noel from WEEU.
Thank you, Shirley. Thank you everyone for coming out. How's it going? You guys know me, Noel Acosta, WEEU, evening announcer, and I fill in all over the place, and I host the sound room, so thank you for all our listeners who came out tonight. Appreciate it. It's a sold-out crowd, so thanks for that. Tonight is a special night. It's another Berks Country Fest event presented by Wise Markets, and Storytellers Session 2, the Celtic roots, music, fusion of Irish and Appalachian mountain and country music. And we have Bracken over here, and on my right we have, oh, I guess my right is over here, that's my left, right? On my right is Ireland's Kevin Martin. Came all the way from Ireland, you guys. Give it up. Awesome. Yeah. I want to thank the Highlands, and that's all I have to say for now, and let's get right to it with Bracken.
All right, thank you everybody for being here. We're getting those house lights down now, set the mood, and we'll take you to a wonderful journey. And hopefully this is, as I said to some folks, much more entertaining than sitting at home watching television tonight. All right, that's our goal. My name's Dave Klein, this group Bracken. I'll introduce to you in just a little bit, and then we'll talk as we go because it's a storyteller session. So what we're going to do is we're going to start in the old country, Ireland. We're going to start with the kind of folk music you might have heard way back in time, and the kind that you can still hear today at many of the pubs as you travel around with the traditional festivals, because these folks value their heritage and their culture, and they brought it with them when they came over here to the Appalachian Mountains. So we're going to start with a little bit of a slow air, one called St. Anne's Reel, and then we'll speed it up a little bit. Shoemakersville. We have towns named after trades here. Shoemakersville, it's a real thing, yeah. So in the beginning you heard that kind of as a slow air, beautiful kind of lilting music. And then we did it mid-tempo, which would be something you hear a lot. And then you heard the crack come in at the end, which is basically up-tempo, and it was that kind of music that kind of transferred itself up and down the Appalachian Mountains into other styles of music that evolved into hillbilly music, early mountain music, hoedown music, country music, and even a little bit of rockabilly later on in life as time went on. It's just a fascinating history that Kevin's going to tell you more about. We warm up though. Now when I wrote to Kevin, first of all, I met Kevin about 2 years ago. I was on my second trip to climb Ireland's holy mountain, Croagh in County Mayo. And the first time I climbed it with my wife, it was nice, we were all alone. The second time I climbed that mountain was on what they call Reap Sunday. And there must have been 15 or 18,000 people climbing the mountain that day. You never saw anything like it. These are devout Christians who climb this mountain several thousand feet above sea level. Some of them climb in bare feet to show penance. Now, climbing on a rocky, craggy slope, almost straight up. I mean, I climb a lot, and that mountain is tough because the shale and the rocks slip and slide, and I sure was glad I had my LL Bean hiking boots on with my lug nut sole. And then I see people, and I saw one gentleman being helped up by two young men. And so I stopped and I said, he was probably, well, I didn't know how old he was. I knew he was going up there in years. And I stopped and I talked a little bit, and they told me that they were his sons, and he had been climbing Croagh ever since he was a teenager on Reap Sunday. He was now 93 years old. And they were helping him up that mountain. So, I mean, people of all ages climb this mountain so they can take communion and have the Mass up there on top of the mountain. So the last time on Reap Sunday when I climbed this mountain, we got to the summit. It was pouring down rain. It was every weather you could imagine on that day. It was rain, it was cold, it was everything. We got up to the summit. There was a little chapel, because this is a chapel built on the place where the legendary St. Patrick fasted for 40 days before he rid Ireland of the snakes and, made the world a better place. And so it goes way back in Celtic lore, even before Christianity. And when we got up there, it was raining, and all of a sudden it was time for communion. And the clouds parted and the sun came out. I swear to God, that's a true story. And on the way back down the mountain, I was saying to my wife, I just can't believe that happened. That's really amazing. I think that was meant to be, I was sort of in a trance. And I descend faster than her. She ascends faster than me. She weighs like 118 pounds. I weigh 218 pounds. So going up is hard for me. Going down is easy. It all flows downhill really. So I was pretty far ahead of her, about 100 yards. And I came across this woman with this beautiful white hair. I would say she was probably in her late 70s, maybe early 80s. Sparkling blue, piercing eyes. No shoes on. Feet bleeding a little bit. And she was smiling, she was singing to herself, and as I got up to her, I said, "Are you all right? Meaning, are you okay? Because I can help you if you want help down." And she looked at me and didn't say a word, and she gave me this most placid, wonderful, serene smile, and then she just started singing something in Gaelic, right at me, look at me. And I thought, I guess she's all right. And I left her alone, and then I got to the bottom of the mountain. I thought, I think that was an angel. I think I had just now an encounter with an angel. Because who could be that much, that placid and ignore that pain? This is how devout people are that climb this mountain, huh? And this is where you live. Okay, so I'm not telling him anything new. So anyway, I went over there, and then the friends that we stayed with, the wonderful family by the name of the Coffee family, they said, "Hey, let's go to town. We're going to have a good time. We're going to have to go to Matt Malloy's pub." Matt Malloy was one of the chieftains, famous Irish group you probably heard of. So we went to Matt Malloy's pub. Who would not want to go to Matt Malloy's pub for a pint of Guinness and live musicians playing in a session? So we went there, and then she said, "Hey, do you want to come another night? I have a guy I know. He's an author. His name's Kevin Martin, and he's usually here on Thursdays, I think it was, huh? Yeah, on Thursday." I said, "Well, of course I want. What's his claim to fame?" "Oh, he just wrote a book. It's called," and I'm going to get this wrong. Will you get it?
It was called "Have You No Homes to Go To?" The History of the Irish Pub.
Yeah.
Because
I think that's hilarious.
so when they're trying to close an Irish pub at night, the owner always goes around shouting, "Have you no homes to go to?" That's something we know.
Hey, you got homes to go to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, with that little background, we're going to do the next song. So, Kevin and I were communicating back and forth, and 2 years ago I said to him, Kevin, I got to bring you over here for our storyteller session. I love what you do. Since then, he's written another book. That's that book, and he'll tell you about it, and that's what inspired this show tonight. But I sent him a song list. American songs, folk music songs, things that were inspired by Irish culture and so forth. And I guess I had about 4 or 5 songs about whiskey on that list. Because I think they're fun. And he wrote back and said, maybe we should lighten up on the whiskey songs a little bit. We've got a bad reputation.
I just didn't want to reinforce the stereotype too much.
Well, there you have it. Well, we're going to do one right now, okay? So this is a song called Whiskey Before Breakfast. Now, you have to be a certain kind of person to enjoy whiskey before breakfast, right? Either a full-blown alcoholic or just somebody who wants to experiment, you know? I am in the second category. I like to experiment. So one time, I can't believe it, my wife, she's so conservative, I talked her into going to the Celtic Fest at the Mount Hope Estate and Winery, and I promised her that what we were going to do was I was going to wear my kilt. It was more like a little Scottish thing anyway. But we were going to have whiskey before breakfast. I bought a little dram each of whiskey, and before we ate a single thing, her and her 118 pounds, and me and my 218 pounds, it affects us differently, right? We had that whiskey just to see what that experience was like. Man, the sun shining brightly, and a whole different experience. Anyway, this is one called Whiskey Before Breakfast. A lot of times it's just played as an instrumental, but there's also some words to it. If you want to sing the chorus with us and get in the mood, it's Lord preserve us, saints protect us. Look, we've been drinking whiskey before breakfast. Lord preserve us, saints protect us. We've been drinking whiskey before breakfast. Feeling too fine. I saw 2 old men with a bottle between them. And this was the song that I heard them singing. Here we go. Lord preserve us, saints protect us. We've been drinking whiskey for breakfast. Said Lord preserve us, saints protect us. We've been drinking whiskey for breakfast. Sitting, I couldn't believe how drunk they were getting. I said, "Oh man, have you been drinking long?" They said, "Just long enough to sing this song. Lord preserve us, saints protect us. We've been drinking whiskey for breakfast. Lord preserve us, saints protect us. We've been drinking whiskey for breakfast." Just couldn't quit. I drank some more, and the next thing I knew, 3 of us were sitting there singing this tune. Lord preserve us, saints protect us. We've been drinking whiskey for breakfast. our woman, everybody in the town. They heard our ruckus and they all came down. Pretty soon all the streets were ringing with the sound of the whole town laughing and singing. Lord preserve us, saints protect us, we really wish for it us. Lord preserve us, saints protect us, we really wish for it us. Now I want you to sing it, I want to hear you. Okay, just sample a D there, give me a little D here, just give me a D, just give me a D. That's because I want to hear these folks out here sing. Tonight, in this moment right now, you're all Irish men and women. Kevin, you're a Pennsylvania Dutch for the night. Roll reversal. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and Lord, preserve us, saints protect us. Drinking whiskey for breakfast. One more time, nice and loud. Lord, preserve us, saints protect us. Drinking whiskey for breakfast. Since pre-Revolutionary War days. Well, what does that mean? That means it came over with the Irish folks, right? And it's a song that has a strange history. It used to have words during the American Civil War. Now you never hear the words anymore because they're so maudlin and just sad and gross, actually, as a matter of fact. But yet, to this very day, it's one of the most popular hoedown tunes in the United States, especially here in this region of Appalachia, which is what they call it, south of the Mason-Dixon line, and the Appalachian Mountains, which is what we call it here north of the Mason-Dixon line. It's a song and a tune called Soldier's Joy. And as I said, it came from the fiddle of the old country. You'll hear that in just a moment. So the Irish, how many of you see the beautiful Irish step dancers? It's great, like Lord of the Dance and so forth. It's great. Yes, wonderful. You love that, right? I do. And then in just a moment, Kevin's going to do a demonstration of Irish step dancing. We didn't rehearse that. I forgot to tell you that part. I doubt it. So, the step dance is mostly from the waist down. It's very disciplined and it's very, it's highly revered and it takes years and years to learn to do it correctly and things. And when it got over here to the Americas, things being sort of free-form like they are, us being, the wild and crazy Americans and rooted in all kinds of cultures, it evolved into square dancing and hoedowning, and mostly hoedowning is what we do around here. And hoedowning is with people flailing their arms and throwing people around in circles and all this kind of stuff. And so it is this popular hoedown song. But during the Civil War of America, it was a horrible war, as I'm sure you know. And history teaches us that the guys that stood up against each other, sometimes brother against brother, depending on which side of the Mason-Dixon line they would fire their guns at each other and they'd cut each other down with gunfire. They could cut trees down with their gunfire. That's how much volleying there was in gunfire, especially Gettysburg. It was horrible. And so guys were maimed and they had legs blown off. And this is the only sad part, the really sad part. So guys would have legs blown off and just horrible injuries. And the doctors couldn't cope with it, so they developed this stuff. This stuff you would drink, you would consume to deaden the pain. And it was a mixture of whiskey. We're back to that again. Of course. Yes, of course. And morphine. It started out whiskey and morphine, and the slang name for that. Like nowadays, drugs have a slang name on the street. This drug is called that. The slang name for whiskey and morphine back in the Civil War days was called Soldier's Joy. And the lyrics of the song are a soldier singing to his mom, "Mom, I don't want to come home. You won't recognize me. I've been blown up that bad. My legs are all blown. My arms aren't here. Just give me a little bit more of that soldier's joy to get me through the day." It's really gross. And somehow or another, the tune survived as one of the most popular hoedown tunes ever. So we're going to forget about the lyrics and we're just going to concentrate on the happy part and go with the tune here, Soldier's Joy, which came from Ireland, then over to the Appalachian Mountains, then into hoedown, and then we said, here's how the evolution comes around. so forth. Then a strange thing happened and evolved into like American country music, and that's where we introduce our friend Kevin Martin from County Mayo, Ireland.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Am I speaking at a proper pace? Not too fast? It's interesting, Dave, that he did send me a list with so many songs about alcohol and drinking. There is a certain sensibility among Irish people about our reputation for drink. But there is also a famous saying that when the Ulster Scots, and we are talking specifically about that particular group of Irish people got here to Appalachian, the first thing the Germans did was build a barn, the first thing the English did was build a church, and the first thing the Scots-Irish Ulster Scots did was build a whiskey still.
There you go.
Yeah, but I don't like to mention that, but that is supposedly true. So my name is Kevin Martin. I'm a professor. How I came to this book, I'm a professor of Irish social and culture and history. And my first book was having no hopes to go to the history of the Irish pub. And that was quite successful. And in the really difficult research involved in that, travelling around to Irish pubs, one of the things I noticed more than anything was country music, when you go off the beaten track in Ireland, is incredibly popular. You know, the tourist image is of traditional Irish music with an accordion and a fiddle, but country music in its wider sense and modern country music, particularly in its honky-tonk, is hugely popular. My mom's sister immigrated to America in the early 50s to New Jersey, and she had a hard life, and alcohol was part of that too, but my mother used to come over and back and bring home country records. And for me, for my age, it would be unusual in Ireland to have such a deep interest in country music, because we'd be very influenced by British culture, pop and rock historically during the 70s, 80s and so on. But it always struck me how elemental the country music was, and how the voice was to the fore, and how it spoke the truth in simple language. My first degree is in English literature, and I always thought country music gets the heart of a message very quickly. There's no hiding in country music. Great singers have to be out there, whereas pop and rock can hide sometimes behind synthesizers and a wall of sound. And that's what got me interested in the whole area. Famously, it was often said that country music isn't anything, ain't nothing but three chords and the truth. Do you know who said that? Someone tell us? Well, famous songwriter Harlan Howard said that, and he was one of he only died there recently. But it's been a term that's been appropriated by others, but I think it's a very good definition of country music. Now, just so that we're clear on the geographical, what I'm talking about geographically, this is the modern map of what is sometimes termed as the British Isles, of course being from the Republic of Ireland, which is the south. I probably wouldn't use that term as such. So you have England, Scotland, the piece with the cross is Northern Ireland, and that is a lot of what I have to talk about as we go through the night. And then we have the Republic of Ireland in the south. And Dave has mentioned the Irish, but there was a very particular group of Irish people. If you're in the Republic of Ireland and you talk about immigration to America, the Republic, people will automatically think you're talking about the great Catholic post-famine migration of the 1840s and so on. I presume you're familiar with that. Yeah, but what the people do not think in the Republic of the Ulster Scots primarily when they think of immigration to America. They think of the Catholics that moved to the great cities of the East Coast, to Boston, to New York, obviously Chicago, and so on, because those Irish people were the dispossessed of land, of inheritance. They didn't want to know about having land in a new country by and large. Land had let them down. Whereas the Ulster Scots were an earlier group, and their history to me is fascinating. So where did they come from? Well, obviously they came from Scotland. A little potted history, very briefly. In 1609, the British decided, after having conquered Ireland, that they would plant Presbyterians, by and large Presbyterians, not exclusively Presbyterians, also Protestants, in Ulster, so that they could change the values, systems and belief of the native Gaelic Irish to their way of thinking. They had to be able to speak English and they had to have Protestant religion. Now, you can tease that out a bit more in that the higher church Protestants, English, were actually the ones that benefited more, got the best land, while a lot of the lowland Presbyterian Scots got a lesser deal, and that is why they moved on to America in many cases. We'll see that in a second. A crunch factor in why the Ulster Scots, I use the term Ulster Scots, we don't usually use the term Scots-Irish, say if we're writing from an academic or historical perspective, was 1630, because they were told if they did not join the Church of England, now by the Church of England we mean the established Protestant Church of England, if they did not convert from their local church, as they use the term Presbyterianism, that was it. They would be dispossessed. As well as that, in Ireland, the Ulster Scots were rented, in other words, they were made pay high rent, tithes, and discrimination. And many left, and they left for the Appalachians. And in the Republic of Ireland, people find it hard to believe that by 1697, in this area, in the Appalachian Mountains and so on, there were 200,000 people of Ulster Scots, either first generation or subsequently. So we use the term Ulster Scots, and you tend to use the term Scots-Irish. So there's a map of where they largely came, through Pennsylvania, Dave, and down through the Appalachian. I didn't know the distinction of the Mason-Dixon pronunciation. That's very interesting. And these were people that were hard bitten. This again, just to emphasize the point. There are more people of Protestant Irish heritage in America than there are of Catholic, and that amazes Irish people particularly. But why did they choose Appalachia? First of all, low-priced land, religious freedom, a frontier mentality, a really hard-bitten feeling that they had already been exploited enough. Sorry, my apologies. And they no longer wanted to be answerable to authorities. Okay. With them, and this is where we're starting our point, they brought their customs and their heritage, and nothing more so than their music, and nothing more so than their fiddle, because the fiddle was a portable instrument. It was the sound of home. It had that lonesome sound that backed the themes of hard-bitten existence. And there you have photographs that show how they brought their music and their culture directly there to the whole downs and square dancing and that type of thing. Theodore Roosevelt, you might know, famously describes the Ulster Scots as a grim, stern people, strong and simple, to love of freedom rooted in their very hard score. You probably know that quote, some people. So, to emphasize that culture and the hard nature of their existence, David and the boys are going to sing the first song of part of this piece of the presentation, The Banks of the Ohio.
Right, so thanks, Kevin. This is really truly a song of Appalachian mountain lore, and this is, as Kevin said earlier, this is people singing their hearts out and passing along their traditions a lot of times, not through the written word, but something we call the oral tradition. Oral, so oral, A-U-R-A-L, or oral, O-R-A-L, doesn't matter which way you think of it. But they would tell stories like we're telling here, and the stories weren't always pleasant. This is not as bad as the Civil War story I told you, but this is a song of, this is not a nice song, but this is the kind of song that they chronicle their lives and things that happened with it. It's called The Banks of the Ohio. I asked my Lord to take a walk, just a little walk, down beside where the waters flow, down by the banks of the Ohio. Only say that you'll be mine in no other's arms entwined. Down beside where the waters flow, down by the banks of the Ohio. Tell you, a couple of years back, I got to go down to the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville and interview Dolly Parton. She had just released a CD. She came on to my Mountain Folk show and she talked about this song. She said her rendition of this song is about the woman singing it, only being done as if that woman was a newspaper reporter in modern times, kind of chronicling her fate. It was like this. I held a knife against her breast, as into my arms he pressed. He cried, my love, don't you murder me. I'm not prepared for eternity. I wandered home between 12 and 1. I cried, my God, what have I done? I've killed the old man I love. It would not take me for his bride. See, this is a song about a woman getting revenge because the man wouldn't marry her. Here's a little music number. Here we go. 2, 3, and. So it's a cautionary tale, and before I finish the last verse, there's another song that was a big hit in the 1930s. We do it during our Cowboys show that we do. We did this on Friday night. And it's a song called Pistol Packin' Mama. Maybe some of you remember it. It's about a cowboy that had a wife who had a couple of 6-shooters, and she made sure that that boy always toed the line. This one got a little more carried away though. She murdered her would-be husband. Only say that you'll be mine in no other's arms entwined, down beside where the waters flow, down by the banks of the Ohio, down by the banks of the Ohio.
That was great. That was fantastic. That is a song that's emblematic in many ways of the mindset, I think, of the Ulster Scotland. We use the term murder ballads sometimes. As the boys were singing there, I just thought of the term hillbilly. The origins of the term hillbilly are somewhat disputed and it's become, I suppose, pejorative. But it has been frequently claimed that it came through the Ulster Scots. King William of Orange was their famous hero in terms of how their historical background, shortened to Billy. And The fact that they lived in the hills and Billy was their hero is one of the arguments that they gave Hillbilly. But also, and it still exists to this day, Ulster Presbyterians, like you might say in America, "Hi Mac, how you doing?" They say "Hi Billy" as a gesture of hello. So the fact that you have this, they lived in the phrase, it was like friends who lived in the hills. You can take whichever hillbillies, take whichever argument you want. And the actual word to appear in country music, Dave, as you probably know, until the 1920s, when some band came up with it. That was a brilliant rendition. Thank you so much there of that sample. Like I said, the fiddle was the predominant instrument that the Ulster Scots brought because it was portable and because it had that sound that embodied the thought structures behind them. They talk in traditional Irish sean-nós, old style singing, there's still this high lonesome note that almost echoes the fiddle. And it's a sound that continues. That's Ed Robinson, who's supposed to be the very first recorded country music artist. But more famously, I suppose, is Fiddlin' John Carson, who actually won the famous one-day-long fiddling contest in Texas a number of times. But the fiddle he used was brought on his grandfather's back to Philadelphia and down through as far as some part of eastern Tennessee. So that's Fiddlin' John Carson. He's quite famous in Ireland still for his music. Over time, as you know, and Dave talked, the music evolved and different instruments were brought in. The banjo, if you listen to some of that really old, there's more instruments in it than you might think. You hear juice harp and you hear spoons. We play the spoons a lot in Ireland, 2 old spoons. And the banjo is a West African instrument originally, isn't it? So country music gets a bad rap in Ireland and Europe sometimes as a very one-dimensional form of music. But in point of fact, like America itself, it's a mixture of so many different things. And when I talk about the Ulster Scots and the Irish churches, of course the blues, black music, everything that played a part. It's a melange, but the mindset and the voice very much is that of the Ulster Protestant Presbyterian mindset that has kept as a keynote through much of country music. The Big Bang, in terms of, I listened to introduce Dave's next song, was the Bristol Sessions in 1927 in terms of recording. Do you know who was the 2 artists that were recorders at that time? Do you know that band? Yes. Famous singing break band, Jimmy Rogers. Had a terrible life, really, died very young, or TBD, but he's an iconic figure. He only worked in the railways for a very short time as a break band, but he managed to keep the name, give a dog a bad name, and hang on, as they say. That's the great Jimmy Rogers. At the same session, the Carter family were recorded in Bristol, Tennessee. They're very interesting because, as you probably know, there's Sarah Maybell and APJ Carter. June Carter was Sarah's daughter and married Johnny Cash and so on. So the Circle, one of their famous songs was "The Circle Being Broken." And if you like, that's kind of the theme of tonight's song. Famously, their circle remained unbroken and does so. AGP was a famous fruit salesman, fruit tree salesman, but what he was brilliant at was going around collecting songs. And he collected from all over Appalachia and they sang them. And their music is canonical and still very much the bass rock, I think, for a lot of bluegrass and old-time music. And their sound was brilliant, very much driven by the guitar sound there of Sarah on the left. And appropriately, I'd like to ask the boys if they could give us, I know it's going to be a sparkling rendition of "Will the Circle Be Broken."
Thank you. Appreciate your faithfulness. A.P. Carter, as he said, interesting thing that I learned about A.P. Carter. Yes, he went around Appalachia, the mountains, and collected all these songs from these people who had copyrighted these songs, and some of them were songs that were handed down through the oral tradition for generations. But what he did that separated him from a lot of people early on was he copyright of songs, and AP made a lot of money from other people's songs and music, so it's just an interesting sidelight. Not that there was anything wrong with it back then, he did it as well as anybody. So this next one, will the circle be unbroken? Seems like another maudlin topic. You know, when you hear the lyrics, it's all about the mother passing away and a hearse and please treat the body gently, and these things all seem sad depending on your point of view. If you're a person who has no outlook toward whatever comes after this material life ends, then it's a sad thing. If you're a person who has great expectations for what's to come after this material life ends, then this is a song of jubilation. And what this song is really written about, what it means, will the circle be unbroken? It's about the children of the mother who passed away singing, will the circle be unbroken? Because the love of God that they learned and the spiritualism that they saw their mother express throughout their lifetime is something that inspired them so. They are a little bit worried that since she's passed on, there will be nobody to guide them on that journey, so that they want that circle to remain intact. They don't want that circle to be broken. So this is them singing out loud, will the circle sort of remain unbroken? That's what we want. I don't think there's a whole much more a parent can do than shoot that arrow of a child straight on and give them a feeling that no matter what, there's this eternal wonderfulness. The reason that we're all here is to make the world a little bit better, and then keep on going. I was standing by my window on one cold and cloudy day, when I saw that first stone rolling over carrying my mother away. You know what you can sing? I miss my mother, she was gone. All my brothers and my sisters crying, so sad, so all alone. Build a circle, be unbroken, by there's a better. Oh, in the sky, oh, in the sky. Sang songs of our childhood, the hymns of faith that made us strong, the ones that mother made them chorus, hear the angels sing along. There's a hope, be unbroken, by and by, there's a better road. Oh, in the sky, oh, in the sky. Okay, you understand? Sing with us now. Stop. Build a circle, be unbroken, by and by. There's a better. There's a there's a beautiful voice in the sky. Build a circle, be unbroken, high and high. There's a better. Oh, in the sky, in the sky. In the sky, Lord, in the sky.
Thank you. Fantastic singing. Brilliant. Dave made a great point actually there about the religion. That the Ulster Scots, the Scots-Irish, they might have had much material. They might have had a difficult, hard-scrabble existence, but they did have a firm belief in God, overwhelmingly. In many ways, their life was a dichotomy. On the one hand, you had the hard-drinking culture, and then you had the religious fervence, and it was often country music is about contrast. But you know, the man, invariably this man, he might go out and drinking with women on his mind, or he might go home. There's that dichotomy in country music that's always existed. The instrumentation is brilliant, but it is no wonder that John Carson's grandfather bought a fiddle and not a bass on his back for Ireland. He had a fair old job bringing that thing over for you.
That's a rough thing. Yeah, that's why it was written.
It's great, it's just the sound is fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay. One of the things that outside of Ireland, outside of America, people became intrigued with the image of the cowboy. And it's very interesting in country music that people still wear the regalia of cowboys, even though they were never near a farm in their lives and all that. And the same in Ireland. All the country singers wear Stetsons and cowboy boots, but they know nothing about ranching or anyways. And in many ways that's understandable, because the very first cowboys, and I think you had a story about that, it was very much an invention really of the cinema. You know, do you know who that is? Do you know, sorry, who that singer is?
Shout it out.
Yeah, Gene Autry, of course. And Gene, while he did have a couple of years ranching experience, I mean, what he was singing about wasn't his life, and it was appropriated by the movies. But this was an another dimension. This is where we get from country and western. You had the Scots-Irish tradition here, and then you had the singing cowboy. And it's very much the singing cowboy image that mutated back across the Atlantic as well as the traditional music. There's an intriguing thing about cowboys in Ireland because of the image of the cowboy as a man with freedom and the ability to pursue his dreams unfettered by, I was going to say by a woman, by family, you know, that he's free to move and so on and so forth. The other famous guy, of course, was, and again, they were iconic in Irish culture through the movies and so on. And you'll still see country singers dressed in this sort of regalia. Did you go sing a cowboy song?
Sure. Well, we do a completely other Storytellers show. We just did it on Friday night. I know some of you were here. Who was at the Storyteller session on Friday? Holy cow! Wow! That's awesome! Thanks! So, yeah, so Roy Rogers, a couple things. A completely manufactured image of the American singing cowboy. The show that I put together is called The Magic and Myth of the American Singing Cowboy. The myth part is, you know, Roy Rogers, he was very famous. I myself, when I was a little boy, had the Roy Rogers boots and the hat and the vest and the star and the chaps and the 6-shooters, cap guns by my side. And I never grew up and shot anybody, just saying, okay? But man, that was so much fun. And then, as you say, the cowboy culture went around the world, not just Ireland, but I gotta tell this story quickly. I was invited to perform at the American Cowboy Festival in Meyerhofen, Austria, in the Zillertaler Valley of the Alps. And I thought, oh, this ought to be great. So I went over there, and sure enough, there they were in their $1,000. There's a suit called a nudie suit, you know, like Porter Wagner wore the beautiful suit with the rhinestones and the embroideries. There they were in thousands of dollars suits and 6-shooters. Only in Austria you're allowed to have real 6-shooters, and they fired blanks, not caps. So when they fired those 44 pistols, they were really loud and scared the heck out of me, but they seemed to be having fun. And that little Jägermeister schnapps, everything was good. Got right in there. And similarly to this, and I don't think we're going to touch on this, there's this very related, Kevin was saying about the reason people like this, I've deduced this in my research, is that because it is what Kevin said, it's that feeling of independence, that feeling of freedom. Believe me, no matter what you read in newspapers, the world press, or what you hear, when I travel abroad, and I get to go overseas like twice a year to do research and music and so forth, and those people love our American culture. Used to be I'd go to the Alps 30 years ago to ski, and it was all like, we go up below, is that kind of stuff. And now it's pull them on in, pull the shoulder, it's all American pop music now, mostly, It's really cool how our culture, they love American culture, and boy, they love the symbolic freedom and independence that the American singing cowboy portrays. So that's what these guys capitalized on and cashed in on. And boy, I could go on this topic, but that's not this show. I'll stop and we'll do an American singing cowboy song for you. This one embodies the feeling of freedom, just being out on the open range. And it's called Singing a Song to the Sky. I'm singing a song to the sky, riding high, there go I. Who could be freer than I, as I ride singing my song to the sky. All night while the ribbon taffy I'm trailing, and I'm watching the
called T.R. Dallas. And he was a guy called Tom Allen, and his career was going nowhere in the 80s. And do you remember Dallas, the television program? He wrote a song called Who Shot J.R. Ewing? Who Shot J.R. Dallas? Changed his name to T.R. Dallas, kept the T from his original Tom, and he became a huge hero. Dallas was so popular in Ireland, maybe in other countries in the world, that they filmed the airplane flying in from America with the episodes. This was on the national news, the first lead story of the national news, the airplane coming into Dublin Airport with the reveal of the reveal of Who Shot J.R. Yeah, who was it? It was a small blonde girl. I can't remember.
It was a flashback. I don't know.
Yeah. But anyway, T.R. Dallas, and he has a Stetson hat out in here, and I'd say he never had anything to do with a cow in his life. Yeah.
That's true. That's the fun of America, and we export that around the world. Hey, and I'm selling a bridge too. Hey, but also, I kind of got lost in my, just before you carry on. So I was saying there's another very similar genre of music. I won't play any of it, but it goes with the cowboy thing. And I said this at the show the other night. It's the strange American love of the hobo, the tramp. Remember Emmett Kelly, Famous Clown? Boy, we Americans, we loved our bums.
Jimmy Rogers capitalized on that with his songs.
Yeah, all the blue yodels, that stuff, you know. And I'm a bum, and I don't have any money, and a bum on everybody. I'm happy as can be. How did that get popular? But it did.
You did right, the freedom and the cowboy had a whole.
That's why it was.
Ulster Scots music, the term bluegrass is used, and Dave, you know, you're experts on this, but bluegrass as a concept was really an invention in many respects of Bill Monroe and his bluegrass voice. But what he did is he reinvented and kind of reappropriated the sounds of the Ulster Scots music, revved it up a little bit faster, kept the same themes and sounds, and it almost single-handedly invented a subgenre of country music. Would that be a fair proposition?
Exactly, dead on, and that has been exported around the world.
Yeah. I have a t-shirt on here. I'm from Westport in Mayo, where Dave, I had the great good fortune to meet Dave, but an Israeli guy, Yuri Cohn, came to Westport to live 10 years ago, and someone told him, you know, Yuri, this is a tourist town, you should set up a music festival. And he said, what type of a festival? He said, why don't you set up a bluegrass festival? He said, what's bluegrass? Oh, it's a type of music, don't worry, if you organise the festival, you'll be successful. And now it's the second most popular bluegrass festival in Ireland. I'm not on the organising committee, but I think I'm going to have to talk to Yuri and see if we can get these lads over next year. Yeah, they had 3 groups. The schedule is on my back there this year. It's a great success. But going to back there, there's Bill Monroe, not the most pleasant man I believe in the world. When his band weren't singing, he used to make them work on his farm. And so on and so forth. But he had a remarkable sound, and he described it when he deigned to talk. He wasn't given to talking too much or giving interviews. Oh yeah, I should say, one of the reasons Scruggs got so famous was they couldn't stick him anymore and left him and went out on their own and became famous musicians. Dave couldn't talk about that in a minute. And of course the banjo and Eric Scruggs' style was central to that sound. But that's how Monroe, when he did talk, described or defined bluegrass music. It's Scottish bagpipes and old-time fiddle. It's Methodists and Holiness and Baptists. It's blues and jazz, and it has a high, lonesome sound. And that is the definition. And Dave and the boys are going to sing a classic bluegrass track.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. So Bill Monroe, the father of bluegrass music. I'm 64, almost 65, and I feel so blessed that during my career with bluegrass music, I've been doing my radio show, the Mountain Folk Show, for 39 years now. And I thank you. It's okay. All 2 of you that listen, thank you. And in that time, I got to work with all these legends who have now passed away. And the blessed part is I got to work with Bill Monroe. I worked with Bill Monroe several times. I played banjo for Cousin Minnie Pearl in a concert one time. I worked with Grandpa Jones. I mean, I knew these people, on stage and off. Mr. Monroe was exactly as he was on stage as he was off stage. He'd stand there when he wanted me to take a solo, he wouldn't say anything. He'd go like say that's the fiddle player, and I'm Bill Monroe. He'd be singing, and he'd just go. And if you weren't paying attention, you weren't in the band the next show. He was a little bit stern that way, maybe that's the Ulster Scots thing, whatever you call him that, right? Yeah. And he was very proud of his Scots-Irish heritage, as he would call it. He wrote a song, a tune called Scotland. And the last time I talked to Bill Monroe, actually, he played in Reading City Park. And he was sitting backstage, and we were sitting there before he went out, and he had a cup of coffee. Bill liked this cup of coffee. And I was talking to him just about the music. He had just released a great LP, vinyl, you know, of tunes. And a lot of them were in weird offbeat tunings. And he said, well, these are tunings I've learned from some of the Scottish fiddle players. They play in like these open D tunings and these modal tunings if you're a musician, you know. It's like if you play it, it's forms a chord already. You don't have to do any special fingering. And so he, being a mandolin player, and mandolins tune exactly like standard tuning on a violin, a fiddle, he would adopt those tunings and stuff and write songs. He said, you know, I really like, and he's having his coffee here, I really like this city. I really like it. Because he was in City Park, you know, beautiful setting, Mount Penn up there behind it. It's just so beautiful here. It's just so green, Dave, you know. And he put a spoonful of sugar in his coffee and he stirred it. And you know, we got talking about little kazoo. Now, but that D tuning, I like that. It kind of has a high, lonesome sound, don't you think? Well, that was his slogan, a high, lonesome sound. So, of course, I'm going to say, yes, it does. And puts another spoon in. He put like 5 or 6 spoons of sugar in his coffee. And he went on stage, and man, he was, at the time, I think he was 85 years old when he did that concert. His fingers, his voice was a little fading on the high notes, the high, lonesome sound. He had a little trouble hitting that. But his fingers were as nimble as a 20-year-old's fingers. And I remember sitting there in awe, watching this master of this art form. He had created and morphed from his Scottish roots. They used to have an accordion player in there. They had all kinds of different things until it became bluegrass with Earl Scruggs and the 5-string banjo. And folk music on overdrive is what it called, because a lot of times it just drove. And the first time they played that on the Grand Ole Opry, people went crazy for it. It was like, oh my gosh, what is this? This is something new and something wonderful and unique. So he is the father of bluegrass music. And the last radio interview I did with him, I asked him, because he was really bad, he really won there, and he wasn't doing so well. I asked him, how would he like to be remembered? That's always a tough question for an interviewer to ask an artist, because you know you're leading up to have that quote. But I do have that quote. Now I have it in my library. I play it on the show once a year to honor him. And he just said, I'd like to just be remembered as somebody who tried their best, and if you could remember me as the father of bluegrass music, I'd really appreciate that. And I told him, well, Bill, people are always going to remember you for being the father of bluegrass music. And so in his traditional way, he honored one of his uncles. One of his uncles was an uncle by the name, he called him Uncle Penn as a nickname. Uncle Penn was the kind of fiddler that back in the days of the mountains, and we're talking about the real deal, before the internet, before television, before radio, and all this different varied entertainment we have thrown at us constantly all day long. A fiddler, a really good fiddler, would literally be able to draw people from towns far, far away. They'd travel all day long at the end of the week to just forget about their cares and worries and enjoy dancing to the sound of one fiddler. Not a whole band, just a fiddler. And Uncle Penn, immortalized by Bill Monroe, was such a fiddler. You can hear it in the lyrics of this next song, and it's called Uncle Penn. And we'll see if we can get through it here today. Bill Monroe incorporated that into his tribute to his Uncle Penn. Here it goes. can ring, you can hear it go, you can hear it sing.
I've been going to this bluegrass festival in Westport for years, and this year they brought acts from Holland, Germany, where it's very popular as well, Scotland, America, and you're as better than any of them that I heard this year. So I'm really going to have to
You know, I love County Mayo. I will go back there anytime. You're such a beautiful, beautiful people everywhere. Really, just beautiful people. Beautiful.
We're going to have to wait before we decide to listen to your music and see when we vote.
Hey, wait, while he's getting the next slide, let me tell you a little story about bluegrass. It's so popular now. There's another guy by the name of Ralph Stanley. Brother actually very popular. Ralph Stanley, the Stanley brothers, the McReynolds brothers were very popular. But it's going all the way around the world, and the folks in Japan are crazy about bluegrass music and American country music. And I met some of them at a festival one time, and man, they were singing songs like Uncle Pen right there, articulating the English language just like, you know, Bill Monroe would do. And then I tried to have a conversation backstage, you didn't understand a word I was saying. Knew the lyrics, but not the language. Interesting.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The headline act this year were Dutch, actually. But they had mimicked it so perfectly, right? Well, I use the word mimic, but their style was so brilliant, you know, like the Denver brothers, and they had all that stuff down so well. But, okay, I knew Dave was a famous man in his, but I didn't realize he had met Bill Monroe and all of that stuff, so, wow, yeah, that's amazing. I'd love to have met him. My image was that he didn't talk a lot to people, but obviously
he was very austere.
Yeah, austere.
Are Ulster Scots like that? Or
Yeah, that's
quite serious.
Of course, famously, yeah.
So down in Southern Ireland, like in County Mayo, it's not that way.
Yeah,
everybody's singing.
Loquacious, yeah.
Nobody's drinking though, it's okay.
No. I know that's how I love it. I love the point myself. I was disappointed last night. I was staying in Reading. Dave Conley put me up in the Hilton. But I was very disappointed at the bar scene. That the bar is closed so early. Obviously, there's, I don't know, somebody told me it was a kind of there's a Quaker kind of dimension as well.
I mean, wait back. Yeah. Okay, you know, I haven't met a whole lot of Quakers lately.
Okay. Anyway, we'll move on. The term, we're familiar in Ireland very much with the term honky tonk. They're actually not too sure, and Dave might be able to throw light on this in a while, where the term honky tonk came from the country. There was honky tonk piano style play. That's one thing. But the first, if you're researching country music, the first reference to it was in a newspaper called the Daily Ardmorite in Texas, a town called Ardmore, which sounds very Irish to me because Ard is the Irish for high and More is the Irish for big. But anyway, the quote was, kind of out of context, but it said the usual bald heads were at a honky-tonk last night. So who the bald heads were, I don't know. Bald heads. Sorry, it sounds terrible. That's what it said.
Boneheads?
No. Ball, as in playing football.
Oh, ball.
Bald heads.
He said boneheads. See how the language changes. This is hilarious.
Anyway, honky-tonk to me is the essential American form of country music. You know, the great honky-tonk singers, pioneered, I suppose, by the likes of Ernest Tubb. Some of you, I'm sure, will know this music. Lefty Fritzell. These were the records my mother brought home from America, and they were not available in Ireland at all. And they were a revelation, I have to say, to me, and I still listen to Lefty Fritzell. I thought was an amazing singer. But most famously of them all, of course, was Hank Williams, still a man who had a tough enough life, but left a fantastic legacy. And he really is the ground force of so much what is great about country music in terms certainly of his writing ability hand it over to you, Dave, again. Yeah.
So a little bit, maybe you don't know this one. This does unfortunately have to do with alcohol.
Okay,
But this is a true story. Just finished, wrapped up with a friend of mine, John Bond. He's a wonderful artist from up in what we call the Eck, the Pennsylvania Heights, named for the corner up there in northern Berks County, where the Appalachian Trail crosses over what we call the Blue Mountain section of Berks County, in northern Kempton, Albany Township and stuff. John Bond lives and works up there. And we just finished up a project called The Place Where I Live. That's what it's called. Yeah. He named it, I didn't. And what it did was, he's a wonderful artist, prolific. He took 20-some pieces of original art, showed me some of them, and asked if I would write songs or tunes. Of course, the difference between a song and a tune is a song has lyrics, a tune does not. And he asked me if I would write some and if I could be inspired by, what his paintings represented. And I said, okay, but only if you take some of my songs and tunes and then you paint something fresh to those. So the result of that was a 10-month collaboration. And it's just been released, and it's actually out there. There's a book that documents all of this, including the scribble. He would send me like a poem that he thought could be good for a song, and then I have it completely scribbled out and wrote other stuff in there. But that's the way collaborations work. And I'm really proud of it, and what we did was we documented history here, and the point I'm trying to get to is that in this community, in this county, one of the big products that was exported and enjoyed right here locally was a product made from apples. They have the apple harvest, and then they have, apple cider. Many of you enjoy apple cider, but if you let that apple cider go long enough and you didn't pasteurize it, and you let it grow in there what's called the mother, it turned into hard cider. And then they called it Applejack, or just AP. And there was a guy by the name of Mr. Baumgartner up in Albany Township. He was a farmer way back in time when the Indians were still up there, and there were the Indian skirmishes and so forth. A lot of people got killed at a place north of here called Bloody Springs. A lot of pioneer settlers, that's up near Charlottesville. All that's true. The Indians never bothered Mr. Baumgartner because his German name, Baumgartner, tree gardener, right? They never bothered because he grew apples and he made great applejack. So the braves and the chiefs would come and get applejack from him. And there's stories about them getting so high with this applejack, they'd roll down this little hill. And you can still go there and see these places, and you can imagine these things. And so in my travels and learning about that, Hank Williams Sr. used to come to town quite frequently. Stars of the Grand Ole Opry back then, and Hank actually wasn't on the Grand Ole Opry that long. He'd take him off because he sometimes wasn't Hank. Hank wouldn't show up. But they would come up here after Saturday night, they'd jump on a bus and they'd come up to Berks County, because we were at one point considered to be the Nashville of the North. And when I talked to Dolly Parton, she knew that. She used to come up with Porter Wagner. Hank Williams Sr. came up here all the time because we had so many family-run country music parks here in Berks County. That was huge. So they made good money coming up here. Hank Williams came up to make good money, but also because, and this is a long story to get to a short finish, but Hank thought that Berks County had the best applejack anywhere in the world. So he made sure he came up here and got several gallons of it at a time. He could have had any moonshine he would want from down south, but he really wanted the Berks County applejack. So maybe he was fired up on applejack when he wrote this one, but this is a honky-tonk song.
Just before you start, Dave, just to make one point that I didn't make, that when we say honky-tonk, of course we're talking about that electrified sound that came very much from when you had this migration, I think, from Appalachian to the East Texas oil fields predominantly, and they had to electrify the sound, but the same ideas and the same thoughts of heartbreak and so on and so forth did continue to permeate the music. But Dave has chosen to sing another song about alcohol, so we'll have to go with that. I did ask him to sing I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry or something. But Applejack is actually a huge hit in Ireland, owned by an Irish artist, so it's an appropriate song.
Well, we'll let it up to the audience. By the way, how are we doing here? You still with us, or are you going to the show? I'm not going to do a song about Applejack. I promise you I will use restraint. I'm a man of my word. Okay, all right. I'm going to do one of his honky-tonk songs. This is a happy song, right? It's about meeting a woman.
Grace, take the measure.
Great, he says. Great. Very, very Ulster Scott. Great. Understated. You probably know this song. baby. Hey, good looking. Hey, what you got cooking? How about cooking something up with me? I said, how's about cooking something up with me? Thank you. See, more alcohol moonshine. We talked a lot about words and names tonight, but I just noticed around here there's gas stations called Wawa. If you named a gas station in Ireland, that should be put in a psychiatric facility. It's the sound a baby makes. As for Sheets, is that another gas station? Okay, that's the name. You can put a person for that. Anyway. Never thought of it that way. One of the things that I found intriguing about country music was the fact that women made it. Traditionally in Ireland was a very patriarchal society, and there weren't many female stars in historically in country music, but famously there was and continues to be greatly and very much admired they are in Ireland, the famous female singers, and this was the music my mother brought home as well. Do you know that lady there? The great Kitty Wells. Her? Patsy Cline. That is Tammy, for my money, one of the greatest singers ever. I have to say, her voice is so calm and cheered up at every sound, brilliant. Yeah, more geographically, and Coal Miner's Daughter is a very, very popular song that always hears in Ireland when you hear country music. Her story is very much emblematic, I think, of the Ulster Scots. Her, what was the name of her famous where she was from? Something Holla, Butcher's Holla, and so on. Yeah, we're intrigued in Ireland by that. We're intrigued. I gave this talk in Ireland there not so long ago, and a lady turned up who was a nurse in the Appalachian Mountains in East Tennessee, and she talked about how some of the people there lived such off-grid lives that their children had never been baptized. You know, and this blew my mind, because according to that, now this is in 21st century America. So you just see that, and Dave might talk more about that. So unbelievable. But as well as that, of course, you have great male honky-tonk artists. You know who that is? It's an early picture of him, Dave. Do you? That's Waylon. No, it's Waylon Jennings. Oh, Waylon Jennings. Wow, look how clean that Waylon Jennings was.
Before he smoked 80 cigarettes a day, and guys.
Yeah, with Willie Nelson.
Exactly. Or Johnny Cash for that matter. But these are iconic figures in Ireland still. And of course, it's brilliant that he's still alive. And of course, what does Willie want to happen when he dies?
Oh, he wants to be over first.
No, what would you want? Roll me up and smoke when I die.
I don't know, please throw.
Yeah. And of course, do you know that man? All the great guys seem to be dead recently. The great Merle Haggard. I was a great fan of Merle Haggard. I think he's a fantastic singer. But the point I'm making here, these honky-tonk artists, their sound and their word people, their sound, that hard sound, very much came through thematically from the Ulster Scots, their early music. You know, that great country sound that seems to be largely lost in a lot of the country pop that passes for country music now. In that picture there, of course, shows Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, and the other two. And the guy there at the back. Buck Owens, yeah. That's a good old picture of Buck Owens. The whole Bakersfield sound, which arose in California, Buck Owens. Dwight Jokum, of course, who I think is a great singer. I love to see him. But my own personal favourite with Tammy Wynette is the great George Jones. I was lucky enough to see him perform in Castlebar in Ireland. I don't know if it was the only time he came, but it was just years before his death. Very interesting man. Wouldn't say he was a rocket scientist. His hobby was to mow grass for 5 or 6 hours a day. But I tell you, by that time his brain must have been affected by alcohol once again. I was in.
You brought over here?
Yeah. But Jones's voice, I mean, wow, I was so happy to see him. At that time, when I saw him, he was only singing like medleys, a voice, one song melded into another. He was great. First up, she stopped loving him, play or whatever. But a man that changed country music, and you don't hear an awful lot about him, was this particular man. Do you know him? Chet Atkins. And Chet Atkins, and this is where country music came to Ireland, more or less single-handedly, you could say, invented the so-called national sound, because for him, he realised that the sound, you had rockabilly and you had rock music, looked like it was going to supplant the country cousin act of so-called hillbilly music, and he rounded out the sound, added melodies, choirs, and this is the man then that, sorry, do you know what that is?
Yeah, well.
6 marker Dave. Very good. Cheesy pick, very good here. But Eddie Ireland, but the person who became the #1 country ambassador across the world and the first great country artist to come to Ireland was this man here, Jim Reeves. Jim Reeves is still the biggest selling artist of all time in Sri Lanka. I was reading for a reason, and Sri Lanka is, yeah. But you know the reason why? Largely, part from his sound was that he enunciated English very clearly and people could understand his English. He had a background as a radio announcer and he had this sweet, mellow voice, enormously popular in Europe. Jim Reeves still is. But the biggest, and in my book there I write about like the Jim Reeves fan club in India is the biggest country music fan club of all of them. So that's the way Jim Reeves. But he came to Ireland in 1963. And it made huge news. Kennedy came at the same time, but Reeves, for many people, was bigger news. He had a very mixed tour because he wasn't happy with the facilities in Ireland, and famously one night he walked off the stage. People were somewhat disappointed, but he was right to be, because the music, the impresarios, or the Svengalis behind that brought him to Ireland, and didn't provide good facilities for him and let down his great voice. But Jim Reeves was very much the man who brought the sound of country music to Ireland along with the singing cowboys. And I think I'm going to do something for his name on this one.
Jim Reeves' song of your choice.
Yeah.
I never heard that one. Man, fellas, I gotta look that up quick. Oh, we're gonna do, this is arguably one of Jim Reeves' biggest hits around the world, I think in Ireland as well as here in the United States. And it's called Four Walls. I hope you remember it. Out where the bright lights are glowing, you're drawn like a moth to a flame. You laugh while the wine's overflowing, while I sit and I whisper your name. Four walls to hear me, four walls to see. Sometimes I ask why I'm waiting, but my walls have nothing to say. I'm made of love, not hating, so here where you left me, I'll stay. Hear me, falls to see, falls too near me, closing in on me. a night with you is like heaven. And so while I'm walking the floor, I listen for steps in the hallway, and I wait for your knock on my door.
And it was only with that song that he said, "Hey, tone down your voice, drop it down a couple of notes by Jen Atkins," and he became successful. So that was a brilliant choice to demonstrate that. Yeah. And in Ireland, if you had mentioned American country music to an older generation, the first thing they would want to talk about is Jim Reeves. From my book, I interviewed a lady that played on the sports band, played support to Jim Reeves when he played in Dublin. I said, what was Jim Reeves like? He said, he was very snappy with his band, like Bill Monroe, he was very short-tempered, because he was in bad form at the facilities. It was only actually when we went up to the north of Ireland, which at that time, I call it the north of Ireland, Northern Ireland, was more economically advanced, and he had better facilities and better stages. It sounds that he was happy, but he had a kind of a negative experience. One of the famous stories, what I'll come to in a minute, is how the career of first great Irish country star was launched, was Jim Reeves. The other thing people said about Jim Reeves, this they said that he had quite had the appetite for Irish colleagues and as did his best Blue Boys.
Irish colleagues.
But he had, that was on his writer, or whatever they call it. Okay.
Why not?
Apart from Jim Reeves, the other great way country music came to Ireland was through American soldiers in World War II. And nowhere more than this is the Air Force Network Radio. It was the principal vector of bringing country music to Europe. When the American Forces Network Radio, started, they played an awful lot of what would be highbrow music, opera music, and so on and so forth. But they got feedback from us that we don't want to hear this music. It means nothing to us. We're from the US heartland. We want country music. And it was this country music, the biggest masts in Europe, appropriately, was in Northern Ireland, in Ulster, near Lough Neagh. And they found out that 55% of their listenership was Irish people listening in, more or less, to radio that was broadcast for the soldiers, not for general use. But this is how country music became hugely popular in Ireland, along with, as I said earlier, the cowboy image and so forth. American Force Network Radio, hugely influential. Now we have a 24-hour version of it, but at that time it was just country music was a section. But the first great star of Irish country music, you probably won't have heard of him, was a guy called Larry Cunningham. But how he became famous was to do with Jim Reeves. Jim Reeves was playing, Larry Cunningham was famous for copying Jim Reeves directly. He had the same voice. But Reeves was playing in Donegal one night in the north of Ireland. The physics were terrible. He saw a mouse jumping out of the piano. And he said, he had played 2 songs and that's it, I'm not playing. Went to the bus and said, take me to Derry City. That's it, I'm not having this. And Larry Cunningham had played a few songs earlier as the warm-up act. But he came back on after Reeves left the stage and sang Reeves' catalog as he knew it and saved the whole show. That's the story that's told. Jim Reeves, a biographer, has said that Cunningham wasn't a patch on Jim Reeves as a singer, which is probably true, but Reeves' first great hit and first Irish song that was ever on the iconic show Top of the Pops in England was it was called A Tribute to Jim Reeves, a spoken tribute, and every verse then was one of Jim Reeves' songs, overhead custard, really deep baritone voice. But that's Larry Cunningham. He died a couple of years ago. He was the first great star of Irish country music. And could I just say a few words about Irish country music? Country music went from Ireland, so this is why we talked about Will the Circle being broken. The Ulster Scots, the Appalachian, the bluegrass, but it came back to Ireland through the American soldiers, through the cowboy films and so on. But it very much mutated. We have Irish country music, our country and Irish music. The main part is very much a music that's a soundtrack for dancing. A little bit, I suppose, you know that Texan swing where it's geared, yeah, most country music you'll hear in Ireland is this music that's set up for jiving and waltzing and set to this 4/4 beat. Some people are very derogatory of it, but bluegrass is minority music. He was the first great star, but the biggest, by far, star of Irish country music was this guy. Most of you would have Big Tom for years, and again he was from Ulster Scots. And of course, people were intrigued by his band name. They were Big Tom and the Mainliners, the drugs reference. But he picked it up from, he copied the name. He was picking tomatoes in Jersey Island when he was a young fella, and he heard a band called the Mainliners. That was a great name. But he was the iconic star and copied the American song. But do you know who the American female singer is there? No, the female singer. I think is that Tommy Morales then? Yeah, that's what this guy here is pretty cheap influence in Irish television there. Another great by the same man there, another hugely popular star in Ireland down through the years was this man here, the big Texan. Do you recognise him? On the right hand side? Guy with the yes, I want with the Stetson, Don Williams. That's Don Williams, hugely popular. My mother brought those. I thought he was a great singer. Never wrote a song in his life, Don Williams. But, you know it's all famous, my best friend, and so on and so forth. A man that's hugely responsible for great country music around the world was George Hamilton IV. He's called the international ambassador of country music. The first American country artist of any kind to perform in Russia when the Berlin Wall came. Not just the first artist of any kind. And that's him with the Sandy Kelly, who was one of our stars in Ireland. So, and she has also played with Johnny Cash, poor Johnny Cash, If I Was a World, the famous song. And to just say Garrett Brooks is a huge Irish phenomenon, and I think there was a video released of him performing in Croke Park here in America that was very successful. He divides fans, love or hate him, but we had a whole battle a couple of years ago where he was supposed to play in Ireland and the residents objected and the government got involved and contacted the US administration and said, no, sorry, we can't interfere with things like that. And that's it there with Susan McCann, another great Irish star. Our contemporary greatest stars, just to mention them, are on the left, a guy called Daniel O'Donnell. Have you ever heard of him? Oh, really? Really?
PBS, right? Special. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't think anyone had heard of him. Yeah. And, okay, his music is actually called Daniel music. It's all sorts of strange and different, really, in some respects. It's his own version of Irish country music. And his role has been somewhat usurped by this young guy on the right called Nathan Carter, who released a version of the Darius Rucker song, Wagon Wheel, you know that song? Played constantly on Irish radio. So much that there was a court case of a man that had gone in and beaten up his next door neighbour who played Wagon Wheel on constant rotation. Just recently, yeah. So, it's a song, I suppose. So it was an interesting song because Bob Dylan wrote parts of it, and can't go anywhere in Ireland which you hear that. But also, in recent times, I'll tell you what's become popular in Ireland is country gospel, and we have no tradition of it. This is a friend of mine, but he's Ireland's best known. He's from Appalachian, which is a huge place called Cleveland, historically. And he goes over and back to play in Cleveland a lot, extremely popular in recent times. But Irish country music, we have all sorts now. It's becoming a broader field. At one time you would have heard very good bluegrass music in Ireland, but now more recent times you do, and country gospel you do. Country and Irish, I suppose for some reason, an acquired taste. The real country music, the great country music is American. Without a shadow of a doubt. I think personally it's one of the greatest exports that the US has made across the world, in my opinion, country music. Okay. And so much so that one of the biggest stars at the moment in Irish country is actually an American guy called Robert Mitchell from Shreveport, Alabama. And I interviewed 90 people for the book I wrote about country music, and he was the most interesting, most open man that I interviewed personally of all the people. He had fell on very hard times in America, mental health, when he moved to New Jersey, and he met an Irish girl and moved to Ireland and started a music career. And now he's only second, I think, to Nathan Carter, who I told you to Robert, but should look him up. I'd say he will become popular back home too, if he ever goes back home. Okay, and I think I'm going to leave it at that now and hand it over to the boys for the giving us a wonderful night of music, and thank you so much for listening to this stuff I have to talk about. Thank you, everybody.
Have a nice round of applause again. Thank you, Martin. All the way over from Ireland to get with you. Send him home with some good memories. If you want to talk to them after the show, they tell you hang out, maybe answer questions. We appreciate you being with us now for what, an hour and 45 minutes. We're going to close things up now. I hope that you thought what I said at the beginning of the show was true, that this was better than spending a couple hours watching television. Is that right? Okay. And we did our job. And we're going to close with this one. You can sing along with. This is another Hank Williams senior song. It's called I Saw the Light. Speaking of Irish and American country music and gospel style, this is a classic by Hank.